The Art of Galactic War, The Martian Behind Sun Tzu by Jansen Davies. Chapter 1. The Sky Cracked Over Boju. The battlefield was a living wound. Smoke curled from shattered siege towers. Spears jutted from the earth like broken teeth. The river Boju ran red, swollen with the blood of two warring states, Wu and Chu, locked in a brutal contest for dominance. General Sun Tzu stood atop a scorched ridge, his armor streaked with ash, his gaze fixed on the chaos below. He did not flinch at the screams. He listened to them. A war drum thundered, arrows hissed overhead, the wind carried the stench of iron, blood, and fear. Then the sky cracked. It began as a shimmer, an unnatural ripple in the clouds. Soldiers paused mid-charge, their faces turned upward. A streak of fire tore across the heavens, trailing smoke and fire. It moved too fast, too precise to be a falling star. The object twisted, groaned, and plummeted toward the earth. Sun Tzu narrowed his eyes. The impact shook the valley. Trees bent, horses reared. A plume of dust rose from the crash site just beyond the riverbank, where the terrain was volatile and cursed. An ancient burial ground no army dared tread. "Scout riders," Sun Tzu ordered, "bring me what fell from the sky." Hours passed. The battle slowed, as if the war itself held its breath. The riders returned with a prisoner. He was unlike any man Sun Tzu had seen. Tall, lean, cloaked in red fabric that shimmered like liquid metal. His skin was smooth, almost translucent, and his eyes, large, black, and unblinking, held the weight of stars. He did not resist. He walked calmly between the soldiers, his hands bound in iron. "What are you?" Sun Tzu asked. The figure tilted his head. "I am Walya. I come from beyond your stars." The general scoffed. One spat. "A madman." But Sun Tzu saw something else. The way Walya moved, measured, deliberate. The way he scanned the terrain, the formations, the wounded. He was studying the war. "Speak," Sun Tzu said. "Tell me what you see." Walya's voice was soft, but it carried. "Your enemy is not the army before you. It is the pattern you failed to break." Sun Tzu gestured to his transcriber. "Write down everything he says." And so began the dialogue that would change the course of history. Chapter 2. The Martian and the General. The tent was silent but for the scratching of a brush on silk. A single lantern flickered above the table where Sun Tzu sat, his fingers steepled, his eyes locked on the being across from him. Walya sat with perfect stillness, his red cloak folded like a second skin, his expression unreadable. The transcriber, a boy of 16 with ink-stained sleeves, dared not look up. "You speak of patterns," Sun Tzu said, "but war is chaos." Walya's voice was low, melodic. "Only to those who do not listen." Sun Tzu leaned forward. "Then speak." "I am listening." Walya's gaze drifted to the map between them. Rivers, ridges, enemy encampments marked in charcoal. "Your enemy believes you will strike at dawn. You will not. You will vanish." "Retreat," one of the captains scoffed from the shadows. "Cowardice." Walya turned to him, unblinking. "To disappear is not to flee. It is to become uncertainty. Let them chase ghosts. Let them burn their strength in pursuit of shadows." Sun Tzu raised a hand. The captain fell silent. "And when they tire?" the general asked. Walya touched the map. "You return. Not as a wave, but as mist. You seep into their cracks. You divide their unity. You make them doubt." The transcriber's brush moved faster. Sun Tzu studied the Martian. "You speak as if war is not destruction." "It is not," Walya said. "It is persuasion. The art of making your enemy believe what you need them to believe. The sword is only the punctuation. Outside, the wind howled. The war waited. Sun Tzu stood. "You will advise me. From this moment forward." Walya inclined his head. "I will serve peace through victory." The general turned to his officers. "Prepare the men. We vanish before sunrise." As the tent emptied, Sun Tzu lingered. "You are not of this world." "No," Walya said, "but I have seen many like it, and I have seen what happens when war forgets its purpose." Sun Tzu nodded slowly. "Then teach me." And so the general and the alien began their campaign, not just against the armies of Chu, but against the very nature of war itself. Chapter 3. Master Sun Rises. The army vanished before dawn. Campfires were doused, footprints erased, banners lowered. By the time the scouts of Chu crested the ridge, the valley was empty, silent as a tomb. They returned to their warlord with trembling voices and no answers. Sun Tzu's army had become mist. For 3 days the soldiers of Wu moved like shadows, through ravines, over ridge lines, across forgotten goat paths known only to shepherds and ghosts. Walya walked at the front, his eyes closed, his hand hovering just above the earth. He felt the pulse of the land, the rhythm of movement, the tremor of enemy patrols before they appeared. The soldiers began to whisper. "He sees without seeing. He walks like wind. He is not of this world." They began to call him Master Sun, not to confuse him with the general, but because he too had become a teacher. He spoke little, but when he did, his words struck like arrows. "Do not fear the enemy's strength," he told the cavalry. "Fear their certainty. Break it." On the 4th night they struck. A Chu supply caravan, heavily guarded, wound its way through a narrow pass. Walya led the charge, 30 mounted riders against 200 foot soldiers. But the pass was narrow, the moon was high, and the enemy had grown complacent. The cavalry moved like a single blade. Walya's mount leapt from the ridge, hooves striking stone like thunder. He did not draw a weapon. He simply rode, straight through the line, scattering men like leaves. His riders followed, silent and swift. By dawn, the pass was theirs. Not a single Wu soldier had fallen. Sun Tzu arrived hours later. He dismounted slowly, surveying the aftermath. Enemy banners trampled, wagons overturned, prisoners bound and silent. "You disobeyed my order to wait," he said. Walya bowed. "I obeyed the rhythm of the terrain." Sun Tzu stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to his officers. "From this day forward, he commands the cavalry." The men cheered. Walya said nothing. That night, around the fire, the transcriber asked him, "Why do you fight if you hate war?" Walya looked into the flames. "Because peace must be protected. And sometimes, to protect it, you must teach war how to end itself." The boy wrote it down, and the legend of Master Sun began to spread, not just through the ranks of Wu, but across the enemy lines where soldiers spoke of a red-cloaked phantom who rode without fear and struck without warning. A ghost, a god, a general from beyond the stars. Chapter 4. The Siege of Shangyang. Shangyang was a fortress carved into the bones of the earth. Its walls rose like cliffs, blackened by fire and legend. For decades it had defied every siege, its defenders ruthless, its gates unbreakable. Sun Tzu's army encircled it for weeks, probing, testing, bleeding. Morale waned, supplies thinned. The war threatened to stall. In the command tent, maps littered the floor. Officers argued. Sun Tzu stood silent, watching the storm of voices swirl around him. Walia entered without announcement. He walked to the center of the room and placed a single stone on the map just outside the fortress walls. "Retreat," he said. The room erupted. "Retreat?" spat General Wei. We've starved them for weeks." "They are not starving," Walya replied. "They are waiting. You are the ones bleeding." Sun Tzu raised his hand. Silence fell. Walya continued. "Pull back. Leave the valley. Make them believe you've abandoned the siege. They will celebrate. They will open their gates. And then, at midnight, you return." Wei scoffed. "They'll see us coming." Walya turned to him. "Not if you move like wind. Not if you strike like silence." Sun Tzu studied the stone. "And if they do not open the gates?" Walya's eyes gleamed. "Then you have already won, because they will no longer trust their own walls." That night the army vanished into the hills. 3 days passed. Shangyang's gates creaked open. Fires were lit. Music echoed across the valley. The defenders believed the siege broken. At midnight the cavalry returned. Walya led the charge, his cloak catching moonlight like flame. They did not breach the gates. They rode through them. The enemy, drunk and scattered, fell in minutes. By dawn, Shangyang belonged to Wu. Sun Tzu stood atop the battlements, watching the city burn. He turned to Walya. "You see what others do not." Walya nodded. "I see what they refuse to question." The soldiers cheered. The name Master Sun spread like wildfire. But in the shadows of victory, envy stirred. Sun Tzu's officers whispered, "He commands without rank. He wins without blood. He speaks like a god." And Sun Tzu, though grateful, felt the weight of legend shifting away from him. That night he sat alone with the transcriber, reviewing the scrolls. "Remove his name," he said quietly. "Let the wisdom stand on its own." The boy hesitated. "But it is his voice." Sun Tzu looked into the fire. "Then let it be mine." Outside, Walya watched the stars, unaware that history had begun to forget him. Chapter 5. The Scrolls of Strategy. The war slowed, but the writing did not. Each night, after the fires dimmed and the soldiers slept, Sun Tzu and Walya sat beneath the canopy of stars, speaking in low tones while the transcriber etched their words onto silk scrolls. The boy's fingers ached, but he did not stop. He knew he was recording something eternal. 13 themes emerged. Walya spoke of terrain, not as obstacle, but as ally. "The land is not passive," he said. "It listens. It remembers. It punishes those who ignore its voice." He spoke of deception, not as trickery, but as clarity. "To mislead is to reveal. You show your enemy what they wish to see, and in doing so, you show them who they truly are." He spoke of momentum, morale, timing, and silence. "Victory," Walya said one night, "is not the moment your enemy falls. It is the moment they choose not to rise." Sun Tzu listened, absorbing each phrase like a blade being sharpened. He asked questions, challenged assumptions, tested ideas against the battlefield. Walya welcomed it. Their dialogue was not teacher and student. It was two minds forging something greater than either alone. But the transcriber noticed a shift. Sun Tzu began to rephrase Walya's words. He adjusted metaphors, softened alien references, replaced "we" with "I." The scrolls became less a record of conversation and more a monologue. One night, Walya paused mid-thought. "You are changing the shape of the truth." Sun Tzu did not look up. "I am shaping it for those who will not understand your voice." Walya nodded slowly. "Then speak wisely, for they will follow your voice into fire." The transcriber hesitated. "Should I record that?" Walya smiled. "Only if you believe it matters." Outside the tent, the soldiers trained by moonlight, their formations tighter, their movements sharper. They no longer fought like men. They fought like ideas. Fluid, adaptive, precise. They were becoming the embodiment of the scrolls. And yet, in the quiet spaces between victories, Jealousy bloomed. Officers whispered, "He speaks like a prophet. He commands without rank. He rewrites the general's legacy." Sun Tzu heard them. He said nothing. But that night he sat alone with the scrolls, reading Walya's words by firelight. He traced each line with his finger, then dipped his brush and began to rewrite, not to erase, but to claim as his own. Chapter 6. The Battle of the Red River. The Red River was a serpent, wide, winding, and treacherous. Its banks were slick with clay, its currents swift enough to drown a horse. Chu's army had fortified the far side, confident that no force would dare cross. Their archers lined the cliffs. Their war drums echoed across the valley like thunder. Sun Tzu's officers debated retreat. Walya stood alone at the river's edge, his cloak rippling in the wind. He knelt, pressed his palm to the soil, and closed his eyes. "The river is not the obstacle," he said. "It is the invitation." Sun Tzu approached. "You intend to cross?" Walya nodded. "Tonight, with cavalry." The officers erupted. "Madness! They'll be slaughtered. The river will eat them alive." Walya turned to them, calm. "Then let the river choose." At dusk, 30 riders assembled. Walya led them into the shallows, their mounts trained to move in silence. The moon rose. Mist clung to the water like breath. Chu's sentries saw nothing. Halfway across, Walya raised his hand. The river stilled. It was not magic. It was timing, perfect alignment with the tide, the wind, the moon's pull. But to the soldiers, it felt divine. They emerged on the far bank like ghosts. The enemy never saw them coming. Walya's cavalry struck from behind, severing command lines, scattering formations. Chu's archers turned to fire, only to find their own war drums silenced, their generals missing. By dawn, the cliffs belonged to Wu. Not a single rider had fallen. Sun Tzu arrived with the main force hours later. He stood atop the ridge, surveying the carnage. His officers bowed, his soldiers cheered. But the name they chanted was not his. "Master Sun! Master Sun!" Sun Tzu's jaw tightened. That night he summoned Walya to his tent. The transcriber was absent. The fire burned low. "You again disobeyed my command to wait," Sun Tzu said. Walya bowed. "I obeyed the power of the river." Sun Tzu studied him. "You are becoming a legend." Walya said nothing. Sun Tzu leaned forward. "Legends are dangerous. They do not follow orders." Walya met his gaze. "Then do not give orders. Give truth." The silence between them was heavy. Outside, the soldiers celebrated. Inside, the alliance began to crack. Chapter 7. The Whispering Court. Victory had made Sun Tzu a legend. The siege of Shangyang, the crossing of the Red River, the impossible winds, each etched his name deeper into the scrolls of history. Emperors sent envoys, scholars begged for his teachings. His army grew, not just in numbers, but in reverence. But legends cast long shadows. In the imperial court, whispers stirred like smoke. Who was this Master Sun? Why did he never speak of his homeland? Why did his tactics defy tradition, yet succeed without fail? "He is not one of us," murmured Minister Gao. "He bends war to his will," said General Wei. "He speaks in riddles," said the emperor's scribe, "and the general listens." Sun Tzu heard them. He did not respond, but the seed of doubt, once planted, began to bloom. That night he summoned Walya to a private chamber. No transcriber, no guards, no fire. "You have given me victory," Sun Tzu said, "but you have also given me questions." Walya stood silent. "They ask who you are, where you come from, what you want." "I want peace," Walya said. Sun Tzu's voice hardened. "Then you must leave." Walya did not flinch. "Is this exile? punishment. It is protection, Sun Tzu said. For you, for me, for the legacy we built together. Walya nodded slowly. Then I will go, but I will not lie. You must, Sun Tzu said. You must never speak of your role. You must never claim these victories. Walya looked at him, not with anger, but with sorrow. You fear what you cannot claim. Sun Tzu stepped forward. I fear what I cannot control. The silence between them was final. Walya turned to leave. At the threshold, he paused. You have the scrolls. Use them wisely. Sun Tzu reached into his robe and offered the original transcriptions. They are yours. Walya shook his head. They belong to the world now. Let them speak and flow freely through you. And then he was gone. No farewell, no ceremony. Only the wind knew his path. The next morning, Sun Tzu stood before his army and declared that Master Sun had returned to his homeland. The soldiers mourned. The officers nodded. The transcriber wept. But none questioned the general. And history began to forget the Martian who had taught Earth how to win without war. Chapter 8. The Exile Pact. The valley was quiet. No banners, no drums, no soldiers. Just wind through bamboo and the distant cry of cranes. Walya walked alone, his red cloak trailing behind him like a memory. He did not look back. Sun Tzu had given him no escort, no farewell, only silence. The transcriber had tried to follow, but Walya stopped him at the edge of the forest. Your path is with the scrolls, he said, not with me. But they were your words, the boy whispered. Walya smiled. Then let them live without my name. He vanished into the trees. For days he traveled through forgotten terrain, abandoned shrines, ruined watchtowers, villages untouched by war. He did not speak of battles. He taught farmers how to read the wind. He showed children how to listen to silence. He healed wounds with herbs and stories. He lived what he preached, that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of understanding. In one village, a warlord arrived with soldiers. He demanded tribute, threatened fire. Walya stood before him, unarmed. I will not fight, he said, but I will not move. The warlord laughed. Then you will die. He raised his sword. It shattered mid-air. The soldiers fled. The warlord wept. Walya remained untouched. Word spread, not of a warrior, but of a sage, a red-cloaked figure who walked through war and left peace behind. Some said he was a god, others a ghost. None knew he had once led an army. Back in the capital, Sun Tzu gathered the scrolls. He condensed them, refined them, removed the alien metaphors. He titled them The Art of War. He did not mention Walya. The transcriber asked once, Will you ever tell the truth? Sun Tzu stared at the fire. The truth is a weapon, and weapons must be wielded carefully. The boy said nothing. He knew the scrolls would endure, but he also knew they were incomplete. And somewhere in a quiet valley beyond the reach of history, Walya watched the stars and whispered strategies to the wind. Not to win, but to remind the universe that peace, too, is an art. Chapter 9. The Martian and the Immortal King. The year was 506 BCE. While Sun Tzu's victories reshaped the East, a different storm brewed in the West. The Persian Empire, under King Darius I, expanded like fire across the known world, conquering Babylon, subduing Egypt, and preparing to crush the rebellious Greeks. But in the mountains of Elam, far from the royal court, a stranger arrived. He wore a red cloak. He spoke in riddles. He carried no weapon, yet walked through war unscathed. The locals called him Zariah, the Silent One. He taught shepherds how to predict storms. He taught elders how to settle disputes without blood. He spoke of terrain, deception, and restraint. His words echoed those of a distant general, phrases once whispered beside a Chinese fire. One day, a Persian commander named Artabanus sought him out. "We prepare to invade the West," Artabanus said. "The king demands swift victory." Walya, Zariah, studied the map. "You will win, but you will lose what matters." Artabanus frowned. "What matters?" "The trust of your people, the soul of your empire, the memory of mercy." The commander scoffed. "We do not need mercy. We need conquest." Walya nodded. "Then you will have conquest, and you will chase it until it consumes you." Artabanus hesitated. "You speak like a prophet." "I speak like a witness," Walya said. "I have seen empires rise. I have seen them fall. I have seen war forget its true purpose." The commander left, shaken. Weeks later, Artabanus would advise Darius to delay his campaign against Greece. He would urge caution, restraint, and diplomacy. The king would ignore him, but history would remember Artabanus as the voice of reason, the man who foresaw the cost of unchecked ambition. And somewhere in the mountains, Walya watched the stars shift. He had whispered to China. He had whispered to Persia. He had planted seeds in soil that would bloom centuries later, in the teachings of philosophers, in the strategies of generals, in the quiet choices of those who chose peace over glory. He was never named, but his influence endured. And in the folds of time, where myth and memory entwine, the Martian behind Sun Tzu became something more than legend. He became the ghost in every scroll, the silence behind every strategy, the art behind every war. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.